Schonbrun. I'm your host. I have the pleasure of having with me today as a guest Jared Kessler. Jared Kessler is a vision driven entrepreneur. He's the CEO and co founder of Easyknock and former global head of equities at Cantor Fitzgerald and Co., a New York based financial services firm. He previously held positions at Credit Suisse, Morgan Stanley, and Goldman Sachs. Jared is the propelling force behind the name that's changing the future of real estate. Having worked on Wall Street for years, Jared saw the fundamental issues preventing Americans from accessing the money they need. He decided he was going to do something about that. With over 15 years of experience in business strategy and development, Jared has developed the first institutionalized sale leaseback platform to help homeowners across the country. He's also the CEO of the Stay Mission, a nonprofit organization. Please help me welcome Jared Kessler. Jared, how are you?
I'm good, Ari. Good to see you
Wow.
again.
Yeah, you and I, we met when we were both working at Cantor. I remember you were a powerhouse at the firm. You know, the things I remember about you, A, you never take no for an answer. And B, you never accepted the words, it can't be done. If it was something you wanted or needed, you found a way to make it happen. And that was your endearing personality for most of us at the firm.
Well, thanks, Ari. It's funny you say that because I'm reading Adam Grant's book right now, Think Again, and he talks about like the most annoying things people say instead of rethinking. And one of the four things is that's the way we've always done it, and that's like one of my biggest pet peeves.
Oh God, I always hated that. We've always done it that way. Well, that's why it's been wrong for so long.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's funny. Yeah. So like that's totally in line with my thinking. So that's
Right.
funny. I didn't even remember that's what you thought. So that's great.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure you're leading your new company in the same fashion, which is why it's such a great success. And I follow you, and I'm really excited about your business, and it's great. And I know you're doing some really, really great things. Now, as you know, the name of this podcast is Whispers and Bricks. Now, the whispers are those voices telling you what is the right thing to do and represents the good in life. The bricks represent the bad things that we go through in life. Now, we all know that there are many ups and downs in life and many bumps in the road. Now, on the surface, you seem to have had a great life and a great career. But as I said, so every so often life throws a curveball at you. You know, life hits us with bricks. My biggest brick, as I always tell people, was 9/11, and the whispers helped me with my miraculous escape. Now, here's the thing. My listeners want to know, what were some of your struggles and or failures, if any? Some of the bricks that you got hit with when you were starting out in your career or throughout your career?
Yeah, it's a great question, Ari. I think that the the mistakes were, I should say, the struggles I had. In the context of what we were talking about, when I got into financial services, I started working in equities. And over the course of I got into business. Today's actually my birthday. I'm 44. So
Happy
1990,
birthday.
thank you. So in 1999, coming out of college, the equity business was a great business. It was everyone was making a lot of money. There were a lot of people in the industry, and over the course of sort of 17 years, rooms that were full of people were replaced by servers. And if anyone's ever sort of stood metaphorically on a melting ice cube, that's what I felt like for 15 years, for
Wow.
17 years. And the challenge there is when you feel like you're stuck in a world and there's no other choices, because what is a transferable skill for an equity market maker? There's really not much you can do with it. And a lot of these people that were making money and doing well, they really didn't see a world outside of it. And we all sort of try to follow a syllabus for life, and the people that follow the syllabus, that try to rethink things, as I was just talking about before, they usually tend to be successful. But when you have a family and you can't take risks, it becomes much harder. So I would say professionally, the biggest struggle I've had was, working in equities, working in a melting ice cube, and trying to figure out like how to reinvent yourself. And the average person, I think they say they have 4 careers in their lifetime, But that's a tough nut to swallow if you're starting from scratch. And that's essentially what I did when I left Cantor is I said, okay, equities is dying. I wasn't having fun anymore. I was dealing with all this regulatory stuff and I really want to do something new. But to have the courage to do that, sometimes you're forced to do that. Sometimes you're forced because you're compelled. Sometimes you get fired. So professionally, that's been sort of the biggest struggle of my life. I'll stop there. Any questions or comments, Ari?
No, I mean, it's, you hit the nail on the head. A lot of people are going through and have gone through exactly what you've gone through. And that's one of the points of my podcast is to let people know that they're not alone in what they're going through, because there are other people just like them that are going through similar things. And what's good is that, you have an answer. Okay. You figured it out. And that's what's so important. Many people can't figure it out, and they turn to podcasts like these and they say, oh, so that's how he did it. That's what I need to do. That's great. All right. So I'm glad you, cause I had no idea, by the way, as far as I was concerned, man, you were on top of the world. Okay. So, sometimes appearances can be so deceiving. It looks like a guy's on top of the world, and reality is his world's about to crumble. Wow.
Totally.
Wow. Wow. Let me ask you. So you went into the new business. You started Easyknock, right?
Mhm.
How did that come about?
Yeah. So I looked at financial services and I said to myself, real estate is about 50 times the size. It's the biggest asset class in the world, and it's about 25 years behind financial services. So if you recall, I just said to you that I watched rooms that were full of people replaced by servers. The antiquated system of the ecosystem of real estate agents and buying and selling homes and all that other stuff is is really just there's been not much innovation. When I left Cantor in 2015 and I started Easyknock, there wasn't even a category created for real estate technology. It's known as prop tech now. And I
Uh-huh.
said to myself, there's a dynamic in the real estate market that doesn't make sense to me. And the dynamic is the following. You have half the country right now that can't get a HELOC, can't get a reverse mortgage, can't do a refi. They more than half the country has more than 50% of their equity in their home. And that means that the only choice for those people, like a credit repaired, typical middle class American, is to sell their home. But people love their homes. I don't have to tell anyone that's listening to your podcast for you that to tell someone they have to leave their home because they need the liquidity, it's like standing in front of an ATM machine and not getting the password. So what we did is I said to myself, we have to create a better way. And essentially what we did is we said, you could become a renter of your own home, and then you could buy back your home when your situation gets better.
Wow. Wow. You know what? Innovation, my friend, innovation. It's what you're all about. I mean, you've done many, many things at Cantor as well, that were very innovative, and it's who you are. You think outside the box. That's what I've noticed about you. You certainly think outside the box. But let me ask you this then. Did you ever get to a point like so low that you said to yourself, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I quit. I'm giving up on my dream. And if you did, how did you come back from that? How did you make it back?
Yeah. So Ari, the truth to your answer is I feel that every day. I have a moment. It could be for a second, or it could be for a few weeks where you you say to yourself, you question what you're doing, or there's some days where you're questioning if this is going to be successful. And it comes from the bigger a company it gets, more money, more problems.
Yeah.
You become a target. Someone once said to me, if you're growing, you're probably going to get sued. And I understand what they mean by that right now. I mean, we're not getting sued, but
Mm,
I understand the point.
right.
And when you're starting a business, and like we talked about when we worked at Cantor Fitzgerald, when you're running a business and there's like 400, 500 people reporting to you, everyone's your friend. Success has many friends, and failure is an orphan. I'm
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
you've heard that
I've heard
expression.
that expression. Absolutely.
And when you're starting a business, all of a sudden you're not that attractive to people anymore until you have something that's attractive and opportunistic. But you also find people that you're surprised that are helpful to you that you never thought were going to be helpful. The people that you thought were jerks could be great people, and the people you thought were great people won't give you the time of day. So that's a little demoralizing to begin with. Then, then when you just have an idea on a piece of paper, and every person doesn't return your calls, they they ignore you. You see human nature, and that could be challenging and stressful. But as you start to get more success, there's different sets of problems. Can you raise money? What do you do with people that quit? What do you do if you have a security breach? So there's always something coming at you, and you got to either have broad shoulders and be tough, and figure out how to have a solution and be a good crisis manager, especially to start up. It's never a straight line, or you can't. But at the end of the day, specifically for startups, it's like it's like walking around a desert for many years without any food or water, and you have to be prepared to do that. And if you don't have the stomach for that, you're not going to make it. So
Mm.
the most important quality you can have is grit.
Grit,
Yes.
grit, Grit, grit. Yeah. Wow. And you've obviously got it because you've walked the line, and you've walked the tightrope, I think, and you've come across, and that's wonderful. And I'm so happy for you. You have no idea.
Thank you,
Now,
Ari.
let me ask you this: who's the one person that you can point to who you would say had the most influence in your life, and why?
Um, I would say the person that has the most influence in my life would probably be a cliche. It's my mom. And the reason for that is my mom was a career mom. She
Mm.
didn't take the not that there's anything wrong with, being a stay-at-home mom, but she didn't take the easy path. She started a medical company, then she started a water purification company. She was a teacher, and she always ingrained in my head of the idea of being tenacious, not taking no for an answer,
Yeah.
um, being a good person, don't get yourself in trouble. Success is what you give, not what you take.
Wow. That's great. And you'd be surprised, by the way, maybe it is a little cliche, but most people I ask that question to, I would have to say 75% of the time it's, my mom, so so you're right there. It's interesting. But what I did find when I asked that question is most people, certainly most successful people had a mentor. And it was always, every time I talk to people about, who is responsible, whatever, it's always a mentor, a mentor, a mentor, whether it's your mom or whether it's anybody else, but it's always a mentor. And I realized that mentorship is so important because it'll help you through and through. And it's really, it's a vital part of life in general is having that mentor. Now, one other thing I read in your bio, something about the stay mission. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I read a book a few years ago. It was a New York Times bestseller by a guy named Matthew Desmond, and the name of the book is called Eviction. And it talked about the crisis, especially in the urban cities, a lot in Milwaukee and the Midwest, but all over the country that were, and this is before the pandemic, that eviction is a crisis going on right now. And if we're helping people stay in their home, I thought an important thing to do is actually take it a step further. So the company as a whole, everyone lent their time, and we created a nonprofit called the Stay Mission. And the idea is that we allocate money to various different charities that are focused on avoiding forbearance and foreclosure. And what we believe is there's people that just have no control of the situation. If you have a child, and we've had this, that has needs a heart transplant, where someone gets cancer, whatever it is, you're focused on that, and you're not going to be able to make money to pay your bills, especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck. And there's a few innate rights of human beings, and one of them is shelter. And one of the worst things you can do, and I'm sure you've seen the pictures and other people have, of you take someone, you kick them out of their house, you move their stuff to the curb, And it's one of the most demoralizing situations, especially if you have children. So we can play a part in avoiding that and give people a lifeline. That will go a long way. Now, we designed this and created this before the pandemic, and now it's needed more than ever. The moratorium is going to end. There's a real sort of disparity between the haves and the have-nots, and it's something very close to my heart that I really believe that there's a lot of great charities out there. You can't help everyone,
Right.
but this is one where I think it's definitely there's not enough focus on it.
Wow, that is who would have known that you were such a softie? Oh my God, that's amazing. That is really, really, really great. So if somebody wants to get involved with that organization, or pledge or donate, or want to find out more, how would they go about doing that? Where can they find that?
Yeah, I mean, you can go to easyknock.com and there's a section that talks about the stay mission. You can just Google the stay mission. There's no other stay mission. So one of the two there, and you can donate if you have ideas or charities that you want us to allocate to, or you have good stories for people that we can potentially help. We want to help people.
That's great. That's great. Last but not least, any words of advice for my audience? Any words of wisdom? Do you want to tell them a little bit about Easyknock? I think we kind of covered it a little bit. Um, any parting words?
Yeah, I would just say it sounded like a lot of people in your audience that are trying to overcome adversity. They're looking for perspective. We're looking for people, how other people have gone through it. So I'll comment on that. For Easyknock, people can read at easyknock.com. I'm not going to give the pitch. I want so the what I would say to people is the thing that paralyzes people the most, and this is something that I've experienced, and Ari, I'm sure you've experienced, is the when you feel like you're not in control of a situation and you're just paralyzed, that is usually the most debilitating sort of feeling to have. And if you get fired from a job, or someone gets diagnosed with a disease, or something happens, you can take control over mitigating and getting what if it's a doctor, find the best doctors out there. If it's finding a job, create a list, create a form email, get your resume together, go out to networking events. Yeah, you can't snap your fingers and get someone to have a meeting with you, but you can take control of your efforts and your presentation and your education. So once you start taking control of a situation, I think you feel a lot better and you're going to feel like you're in control. So that would be my parting advice to anyone that's feeling like they're not in control.
Wow. Jared, thanks so much for sharing your story with my audience. Good luck going forward. You've been listening to Whispers and Ricks, and I'm your host, Ari Schonbrun. Until next